to summarize the key messages that we've heard over the last 2 days. Ideally, give you guys some things to think about as we go our separate ways, but hopefully stay connected. And that was a theme that I just heard from Walter, and a theme that I think has come up a lot over the course of the last 2 days. So let me start with my first takeaway, and then we're just going to go back and forth. You have a microphone on, right?
Yeah.
Okay, it's working great. So last year, the first takeaway is, I think it was something like MXR is becoming a legit branch of medicine. I've just decided to go is. Medical extended reality is clearly now a true, real branch of medicine. This is not just toys, this is not just gaming, entertainment. We had the FDA here yesterday. We have regulatory oversight. We now have a journal. We have a medical society. We have multiple societies coming together to raise the tide. So the rising tide floats all boats. And I think that's a way of thinking about what's been happening with our field. And I think that's been a real theme that I've taken away. The level of science that I've seen in this conference is by far the best that I've seen. I mean, absolutely incredible. The plenary sessions today, I hope those of you that were there, just congratulations to all of the people that applied and submitted the research, the poster presentations yesterday. This is the first year we've had poster presentations in a plenary. High-level science. I mean, there's just incredible work being done all around the world. So congratulations to all of you who are doing that work, and it just elevates and challenges the rest of us to kind of keep up with one another as we start pushing the limits in this field. Do you have anything to add to this? You're up.
Yeah, I'm going to say that you've heard the word exponential a lot, starting with Brennan's first talk. And I've heard that repeated many times, but really you can feel it. If you think about where we were a year ago and what you saw at vMed back then, for those of you who have been here, and compare that to the technology you're seeing today, both in terms of the devices, but also in terms of the AI, you can feel that change. And I'm very excited to see where that goes a year from now and what we do with that technology 2 years from now. There are a lot of very talented people all coming together here and trying to really make great things happen, and I'm very excited for that.
Yeah, I completely agree. The session that we just had, the deep dive, we covered spatial computing, we covered a little bit of that technology, but we also covered philosophy and the nature of consciousness and the nature of what does it mean to be a human being, and what are the essential features of being human in healthcare and in the world in general. And these are existential questions that we're grappling with now. And we're going to need to continue to grapple with those questions, and we'll continue to have programming in this area, and probably we'll have tracks in future versions of this conference dedicated to the increasing exponential role of artificial intelligence. So that was a big takeaway for me from this conference as well. So another important area that I think deserves more attention as we start to grow the field and provide more and more products and services is ensuring that the research enterprise also addresses these areas: ethics, accessibility, and equity. So I think Dr. Ross, I think she just stepped out, gave a really outstanding talk yesterday, I thought, describing the important work of expanding what we do, ensuring representation. This can't just be sets of technologies that the few have. When new technologies come out, they're often very expensive and accessible. That can't be a persistent problem, or we will never grow the size of a conference like this. We need to ensure that we study this, that we promote policies to support that we work with industry partners to do our best to improve accessibility, and also that we study whether or not we are promoting inequities of care through the use of health technologies, and especially artificial intelligence, which was a discussion that we talked about earlier in the day, ways to specifically and objectively evaluate for evidence of inequities or bias when we're increasingly using AI systems within our spatial computing systems. Any other thoughts on that?
That's not yes.
Okay.
Really, this is a global community, and I think it's very important to keep in mind that different cultures will respond differently to different technologies, and when we build these technologies, we usually target our own culture because that's what we know, which is why we really need to validate our technologies across many different places, and not just different people in LA, but in other parts of America and really all over the world. And until we do that, I don't think we can really, this can really become a global technology.
Well, as an example, you were just in Israel talking to the Ministry of Health about our AI therapists, and they had some comments culturally about, they want to interrupt Zaya, actually.
Yeah, so Israelis are much more likely to want to interrupt the therapist while they speak, not just going back and forth. And technically, it's actually very complicated, and there are a lot of technical issues for how to do that. We're trying to work through that, but it seems like if we want to help that market, we're going to have to figure out new technologies.
Justice speaks way too slowly, doesn't she?
Yeah, she also Israelis tend to speak very quickly. They don't have patience to wait very long.
I was born in Israel, so he's allowed to say that. Okay. So this was mine. Yeah. So I think this is important too, and this has come up before, but I think we need to see more of this in future events like this. XR is not a panacea. It doesn't work in everyone every time, nor does anything, right? No medication works for everyone every time. But we do need to really start figuring out in whom it works and when it works. The right therapeutic for the right patient at the right time. So this is work that we hope to be presenting some new data soon from our labs. We will be presenting new data soon from our NIH research, where we've been looking at predictors of response to VR analgesia, particularly for chronic pain. And we have some very exciting new data that is not yet to be presented, but I can tell you that we have definitely identified very actionable predictors of response, at least in our hands, for using VR for chronic lower back pain, for example. So we'll be reporting that out soon. And that's the kind of work that we're very interested in, is trying to have large enough sample sizes so that we can do subgroup analyses to parse out what are the predictors of response. They may be sociodemographic, they may be psychometric, they may be biological. So to think more broadly about predictors of response, I think, is very important.
Yeah, and of course we have limited resources, so we need to know how to allocate them in the most efficient way. So being able to predict who may benefit from the technology allows us to do that explanation.
This is you.
Yeah, the global applications of MXR showcase its potential to impact healthcare across different cultures and settings. So we talked about how different cultures will respond differently to XR. And really, if we want to have a global reach, we need to be thinking globally. So we need to validate our product, we need to work together across the world to try to unify our attempts to figure out which devices and which software will work for which settings.
Yeah, we've been seeing great examples in this conference. One example with Darren Ramallah here right now, but using virtual reality in Kenya. Hunter just presented a case of a patient in India being treated for burn injuries. And again, understanding the cultural variations and expectations and perceptions around these technologies from nation to nation, culture to culture, across socio-demographic groups, I think is a very important way to continue to grow this field. Love to see more research in these areas. So we've heard a lot about the field of surgical training, medical education, more immersive, realistic, and effective learning experiences. And this year, again, AI plays a role. To these examples from yesterday of bringing checklists to the next level in the operating room, thinking about complicated systems. Healthcare is unlike any other industry in the world. Did this just go off? Can you get let's see, there we go. Healthcare is unlike any other industry in the world. It's not like banking. It's not like automotive. It's not like any other thing. It is a multidisciplinary, highly complicated, high-stakes field that we work in. And so the idea of using virtual reality to standardize experiences and to train people repeatedly in complicated situations is such a huge opportunity. From the plenary earlier today, great example from the Netherlands, using virtual reality simulations to clearly demonstrate benefits for very complicated scenarios, running a code, cracking somebody's chest open in the middle of a code in a cardiothoracic ICU. Like I really, if I'm gonna have my chest cracked open, I wanna make sure that the person cracking my chest has done that a lot. And you know, how do you practice it over and over again, if not in something like virtual reality? It seems to me VR should be standard now, based upon the data that I saw earlier today for that example. And so many other great examples in this space.
Yeah, and that data even showed that the group that used the virtual reality outperformed the group that used the physical simulation. So, very important technology. I agree, should be the standard of care, really.
I think this was you. I don't remember. I lost track. You go for it.
As MHR matures, we should make advances in research methodologies and rigor. Yeah, so we've heard a lot about what advances in research we can have. A lot of meta-analysis found that VR research has low quality. We really need to up our game if we're going to make the kind of global impact we want to make. And that means, of course, we need funding, we need larger grants, we need large sample sizes, and we need double-blind controlled randomized trials.
Yeah, and one of the efforts that we'll be undertaking that you heard a bit about, did I just turn this off again? Do I keep doing that? I got a loud voice, but let's see, I don't know why I keep turning on. Maybe it's me. Is the evolution of new guidelines. So we talked about the opportunity with our new journal, the Journal of Medical Extended Reality. And by the way, please, if you've got research, be a pioneer and publish in our journal. We're so excited to have this journal. But that aside, one thing we intend to do, this does keep turning off, is to have guidelines. So this is part of advancing the rigor and advancing the methodology, is coming to some standards, international standards, and maybe it's just my body or something. Putting out radioactive or electromagnetic waves. To develop guidelines. So this is something over the next year I really want to push hard on. If you guys have areas of research that you think we need to standardize as best as we can at this stage, for example, what is the best sham control condition? Did it turn off again? Yeah. Let me know. Come to me with your ideas, and we're going to be announcing soon the pathways for how to vet these ideas, put together groups of like-minded experts, develop these guidelines together, and publish them. And these will be living documents because the evidence is always changing, and guidelines should change with it. But we need to start having more standardization, ideally international standards, for some of these research and clinical methodologies. Yeah, I mean, I think this was me too, I don't know. Every specialty of medicine is clearly seeing the value of MXR. And every year I look around and I see more and more specialties involved in this conference. I see radiologists, gastroenterologists, general internists, nurses, nurse researchers. I see, of course, physicians. We see so many different people from different parts of healthcare. And it's starting to make me wonder, and I've wondered this before, who is going to be the MXR practitioner? Is it going to become a new field of medicine, like a new branch of medicine with its own boarding, its own set of exams? Or is it going to be that there's experts within each field who become an expert in that area and apply it to their space? Sometimes I think about radiation oncology, for example. That's a field of medicine that has its own boarding. Once radiation treatments were invented, it became clear this was not the purview of radiologists, it was not the purview of oncologists, it was a new branch of medicine called radiation oncology, and they went off and created a whole new field. So I'm not yet sure if we're going to see a new field of medicine, a true virtualist, a medical extended reality radiologist, I don't know what we're going to call them, or if it's really going to be within each branch or each field of medicine that's already existing. But what I do see is the breadth and depth of use cases continues to expand across healthcare, and that's really exciting.
Yeah, and how many conferences bring together radiologists, psychiatrists, neurosurgeons? It's really special to have everyone, and not just doctors, investors, industry, so many different people come together with a passion for this technology. I don't think this is replicated in too many other conferences, so it's not a live thing too.
Definitely. So, you want to take this one?
Yeah, so, well, let's unify the field. We just mentioned that we have so many different kind of people here, and we don't want to see people in different camps and they have different philosophies and they compete against each other. Let's all work together. We all want the same goal. We all want to help patients using this technology, and I think we need to work together to be able to do that, and not, being there's some room for competition, but it should be friendly competition, not trying to tear each other apart.
Yeah, it's like when you're building a fire, there's this little tiny ember and it's so vulnerable and it can go out really easily. And I feel like we've all been, long before I was around, blowing on this ember and making it grow and making it sort of turn into a small flame. And now we've got this sort of, small fire, but we can still snuff it out real easily if we're not careful about it. So I think if we all, maybe the knowledge is about to fall apart, but we all kind of gather around this fire. I'm not sure anymore. What I'm seeing is, okay, on the fire. We have Fine from IVRA here. We have Mark Zhang from AMXRA. We now have the journal as a unifying force to help bring that together. The journal itself is represented by many of you in this room from many, many countries. There's room for plenty of journals. The collegiality, I think, is going to be critical to continue to grow this exciting field and make sure other people know what in the world's going on in these weird conferences like this. So every year it gets bigger and bigger. So number 10, I always want to end with something maybe aspirational. And I talked about this a little bit yesterday. We're here in some regards because of the idea of awe and wonderment. I mean, it's just a wonderful, awe-inspiring thing when you first use virtual reality. There's that aha moment that people have. Now we have the Vision Pro, and people get into it, and they see that their eyes can select things. And it's like, wow, that's the moment that gets people hooked. And so the idea of what we're trying to do here is how do we translate that awe and wonderment in a way that actually improves the patients we serve. Not just for entertainment, there's nothing wrong with that. By the way, I always point out that fun was one of the outcome measures in the Hunter's paper in the randomized control trial. I remember, I think you got some criticism, like, what is fun? How do you measure fun? It's like, screw up. Fun's fun, who cares? What's wrong with you? So that's good too, fun is good, but of course we're doing a lot more than that. Feel free to clap for that. Fun is good, right? And we're in this room because we like this stuff. It's exciting. We're excited by it. So part of our role is to figure out how do we translate that excitement for the fun, for the awe, for the wonderment, and translate it to the people we serve. So with that, I want to thank you all for being here for another year. This was, I think, the best year ever for this conference. So thank you all for being here. And this is Hollywood at the end with this girl. I can turn the music up because I think there's some. And thank you all. Good help. I hope you have a great travels back to all the 17 countries you came from. Tell somebody that we exist and come back even bigger and stronger next year. Thanks again.